Good morning and welcome to the Vision Alignment Show, where we all understand how important it is to have our core beliefs, our core values, our core strengths aligned with our vision. If we can have our vision aligned with that, we're going to be more successful. We're going to be more happy in our everyday lives. We're just going to have more productivity than we've ever had before. So, thank you for joining me here today. This is phenomenal that you've all joined on this call. So we continue to interview people most days. Today, we're not going to interview people, but we're going to have another discussion. So without any further ado, I want to make sure that we get to that, but also want to make sure that you all understand where we're going and what we have coming up for you at the end of this week and at the beginning of next week. So we're going to have a lot of great guests come on. So I'm looking forward to all of that and looking forward to investing more in this show and you. So thank you very much. And if you like what you heard, stay right there. And we're back. Thank you very much for joining us here today. If you would, share this video out with as many people as you can on your timelines. That would be great. Also, if you would, put a picture of you winking in your timeline. And when you do that, I really want you to be thinking about what makes you unique. Because if I know what makes me unique, and it's not my eye, what makes me unique is my willingness to share my story with other people in order to have a lasting impact on their lives. So if I know what makes me unique, then what is it that makes you unique? That's really important for us all to understand that, because once we do that, and once we figure out how we can serve other people with that, then life will change forever. I'm so looking forward to having you get to that point. So if you're not there already, if you are there already, let me know what makes you unique. And by the way, if you would, also on your timelines or in the comment section, do this favor for me. Post your hashtag live if you're listening to this live. Post hashtag replay if you're listening on replay, and let me know where you're coming in from. That would be great to have a better understanding of that. So that's important as well. Now, having said all that, there's a lot. Oh, and if you also are interested to get more information about this show and to what else I'm doing, go to brianwagner.live, and that's Brian, B-R-I-N, just one I, Brian Wagner, brianwagner.live, and you can sign up for Vision Insights. And once you sign up for Vision Insights, you will get more information than you get now. So having said that, I appreciate all of you and appreciate all you've done. So where we are right now is we have a new speech we're working on. So this new revelation that I came on was from a friend of mine. Actually, I hired him as a coach, and he has helped me so much, because, I never thought that I would get to a point where, I wanted to change my speech. And the speech is fairly long, so it's an hour and 15 minutes. But understanding how important it is to use that time with people, because they're a captive audience, but I want to make sure that I'm delivering value to them the entire time. So he said, to do some things differently than what I've done before, and to include some different stories about what I've learned from all this that I've gone through. So that's why I've gotten to a point where I've rewritten my pretty much my entire speech. So having a look at that is what I'm going to do on this other screen, where I'm going to look at what it is that I've written for for this portion of the speech where I begin to go into what I've learned. And this will be helpful for you as well, because what I've learned is helpful, because not only do I talk about how I've changed and what I've learned, but I will relate it back to you. So listen for that. Hopefully you hear the parts of this where you get to learn from this, and I just look forward to hearing your feedback. So after all this that I've been through, I have a speech impediment, and that sometimes comes out in inopportune moments. I have a drain in my head, so I have a tube that drains cranial fluid from my brain to my abdomen. I've had it since I was 10. I have a cavernous malformation in my brainstem. This cavernous malformation, it's a malformed blood vessel. They can form anywhere in your body. Mine just happened to have formed in my brainstem. When I did, it bled, and it put pressure on the nerves that control my vision. That's why my vision's all wonky. That's why my eyes don't open sometimes as they should, and they don't go together even to this day. So I see an image here and an image here. So I see double all the time, except in my memories, which is a funny story. But anyways, so that's part of that. But then there's also the additional brain bleed that I had back in November of 2020, where I had pressure put on the nerves that control my mouth and my tongue, and my right side of my face is numb right now. So that's pretty much how I live. So I live with not knowing, when this brain bleed is going to bleed again, and what damage is this going to do again. Is it going to make it so I can't talk, or is it going to make it so I can't swallow? Is it going to make it so I can't see at all? So that's what I have. But we all have something. We all have something we're dealing with. I just happen to wear mine on my face. So let's talk a little bit about that. Oh, and before we do that, let's say hello to some of the people that are online. Let's see here. Mark Husick. Good morning, Mark. It's good seeing you this morning, man. And from Wisconsin, Lakeside. I love that. That's very cool. A little west of Madison, I believe. So that's cool. Anyway, so I wanted to get into this speech here and talk a little bit about what makes me unique in terms of the fact that I have these medical conditions, but I also am not able to drive anymore. So that's something that I've just recently stopped doing because of the recent brain bleed. My right hand sometimes doesn't go in the right direction that it's supposed to. Luckily, I have an understanding wife. All that is a blessing to me, and here's why. I found my true calling. Being a speaker is something that I thought was something that someone else would do. I spoke at my high school graduation, and Mark, you remember that. And I watched 3 of my nephews speak at their high school graduations. Seeing that always brought tears to my dad's eyes. He lived for hearing a great speaker. He spoke in church every Sunday. Now, he enjoyed going to conventions where he could hear great speakers. So one of his favorite speakers was Jerry Clower. Oh, and there's Jane. Good morning, Jane. It's good to see you this morning. I appreciate you being on. And I just walked by your house the other day, yesterday, or this morning. Anyway, so one of my dad's favorite speakers was Jerry Clower. He was a speaker from the National Speakers Association. Sorry, the National FFA convention. In hindsight, my dad was one of those. One that inspired me to become a speaker. He always talked about how much the former presidents made for giving speeches. That was always interesting to them. But my dad wasn't a public speaker, but he spoke in public. Every Sunday morning, he would read the scripture in church. Much like he wasn't a salesman, but he sold seed. He did what came natural to him. Some might say he found his true calling. Have you found your true calling? Have you found what you're found? Have you found? How do you know? Sorry. How do you know if you found your true calling? Is it a burden or something that gets you excited? Number 2, my relationships have grown deeper than they ever would have been. Until November of 2020, I still was able to drive. During the pandemic, though, there was really no place for me to go because all the places required masks, and my vision is limited anyways because of all this that's happened. Good morning, Alinda. Good morning. Good morning. It's nice to see you this morning. So from West Virginia, thank you. That's very cool. You know, through all this, the mask wearing and whatnot, you know, I've stayed at home more, and now I'm here all the time, except for Wednesdays where I go out to the School for the Blind, and Connie takes me there. So it's not a situation where I'm able to drive at all. So I don't. But Connie and I spend a lot of time together. I mean, a lot of time. She actually talked about taking a second job just to get away from me. That's not true. There's no question that our relationship has grown stronger. I've let her in more on what's happening inside of me. You know, that's not something that's easy for me to do. I've let her know how I feel more, and it's a good thing. But how have your personal relationships changed over the last year and a half? And personal and professional relationships. Number 3, I've been a role model for my kids. You know, I never really thought of being a role model. I never thought of, I was never a guy that had different sayings and, was this and that, all formal about stuff. But I hope I've been a good one. My kids are older now. When all this happened, they were 11, 13, and 15. I wonder what it was like to watch all this happen through their eyes. You're a role model as well. People watch what you're doing, and they see the success that you're having, and they put 2 and 2 together. This is something that I struggle with. I try to do my best, but there are times when I fall short of others' expectations. There are times when I fall short of my own expectations. When are you a role model? It comes as a burden. It can come as a burden, but it doesn't have to. Are you conveying what you want? We're not able to convey all that we want to on a phone or a Zoom call, so it's made it hard. I've learned, number 4, I think it was 4, I've learned to step away. Have you had to sit down with your parents and tell them they really shouldn't drive anymore? There are times when I can see, hear, or sense something that's bad about to happen. Well, believe it or not, now my parents are sitting me down and having a conversation with me about, you really shouldn't drive. But the more apt, as these occurrences happen where I see danger and I hear danger, I feel danger, I'm more apt to get out of the way. Like my driving, my condition worsened when I had a recent brain bleed. That brain bleed is hard for me to say. I knew it was time for me to step away. And this was one of the hardest things to do. Man, can you imagine not driving? Imagine that. That's what I've been forced to do. I mean, I don't have a choice. So what do you need to stop doing? What are some of the earlier indicators for you to look for? I probably should have stopped driving a long time ago. Where are some changes that you need to make, but you're resisting? You know you need to do this, but you can't do it. Like me for driving. Change is hard. Giving up my freedom was hard. Picking up the keys was so easy. Was this going to be the day that it happened? That brain bleed changed everything. What's it going to take for you to make a difference? What is it going to take for you to make a change? Number 5. I've learned how to look at the bigger picture. My vision for a successful life has changed over the years. Go figure. I'd like to think I've learned a lot. Think of how far you've come. Think about how 5 years ago where you were. 5 years ago was 2016. I was still in my day job, still working for the corporation, and still slugging away. Thought I was doing well, but realized that I wasn't doing as well as I thought I was. So think about where you were then, 5 years ago, and then celebrate that. Isn't that awesome to know how far you've come? Well, there's a lot more that I can share with you, and a lot more that I have learned from this. But I wanted to keep this brief, and make sure that you understood where I was going with all this. So I want to make sure that I'm continuing to deliver value to people, continue to deliver that value to organizations that I'm speaking with. So you are a great group to tell me how I've done and how I'm doing. Continue to feed into me, and I'll continue to feed into you. So thank you very much for all this. I appreciate all that you've done, and I appreciate you all being here. Thank you so much. And as always, keep one eye.